Hey everybody, it's Bob Crossan, Senior Managing Editor of Water and Waste Digest, and I have another Top Projects video interview for you today, like we have been doing for the past several weeks and the next few weeks to come. Today I have with me Adam Schantz. He is Northeast Territory Manager for Franklin Electric. I have Matt Crawford, Project Manager for Harger Utilities, representing the contractor for the Lake Carey project. We have Kyle Johnson. He's a product manager for power sewer product lines at Franklin Electric. We also have Andy Freberg. He's the commercial applications engineer for Franklin Electric. And last, but not certainly not least, we have Jessie Hinther. He is the central regional manager for the industrial team at Franklin Electric. And today we are talking about the Lake Carey sanitary sewer collection and treatment system. So thank you all for being here today, and congratulations on a top project for 2021. It's great to see you all here today.
Thanks, Bob.
So, starting first off, I want to get an understanding of this community that you guys are working in and whatnot. Could you talk a little bit about how who this project serves, how big the community is? I think Matt, you wanted to take this one to kind of set the stage for us a little bit.
Yeah, thank you. This project serves primarily the residents of the Lake Carey community in Lemon and Tunkhannock Township in Pennsylvania. It's a community of several thousand people, but more specifically, we're installing 387 grinder service units to the homeowners of the Lake Carey. Ultimately, it serves the homeowners who live within the watershed that drains to the lake, and it's important to those homeowners because in recent years, with failed septic systems and things of that nature, it's caused a downgrade in the quality of water that their lake community has. That's how the project came about, and Franklin stepped up to help get the project going in the right direction for the sewer authority.
Yeah. I mean, just the fact that that many like homeowners were affected very directly by a very specific piece of equipment for each of them is it's a totally different type of project than what we normally see in our top projects, and it was one of the reasons why this was such a big deal for us to kind of highlight about just how nuanced some of these things could be. But tossing to you, Adam, could you talk a little bit about the size and the scale of this? Like he had mentioned, these 300 some odd grinders that needed to be used here. Could you talk about this size and scale and how what any challenges that you had to overcome in that regard?
Yeah, for sure. And thanks again, Bob, for having us all on today to go over this. Um, this project's size, scale, scope has been ongoing for probably 5 years. So it was 3 to 4 years of development and kind of design work that our team has put into this to make sure that we were presenting an offering to the township that was quality and is the appropriate solution for the needs that they had on that site. The topography of the region is very challenging. The natural lake created kind of a bowl shape, so your standard pressurized sewer system wasn't going to work. So we need something to get it out, and so they identified the need for a low pressure sewer system to replace the aging septic systems that were in place there. Um, and I think in talks with the township, the board of directors, Larson Design Group, kind of the power sewer kind of rose to the top to meet the needs of the systems. We have multiple high head units, we have standard units, we have different size basins. The simplicity of installation would help Matt and his team get in and out of the sites that are hard to get to relatively quickly. Hopefully, helps them on their profit side of things when it comes to the installation of these units. So multiple challenges, several years invested in it, and I think maybe Jesse might be able to add a little bit more color to the beginning stages of the product and how or project and how we got to where we are today.
Yeah, certainly, Adam. To your point, topography, when we started looking at the preliminary design, topography was one of the biggest challenges that we had. Um, the flexibility that we have with the two different grinder pumps to put in that power sewer system, along with just how easy it is to put in the ground. I just totally agree. It was really a good fit. So I was, again, just a part of the preliminary design and was able to hand it off to Andy and his team. So I'll turn it over to him from here.
Yeah, well, my follow-up question to this too, I'm just general curiosity for me, but I've been asking all the top projects about it, is the project delivery method. Do you know which method was used for this particular project?
Yeah, so once the project was awarded, we began direct conversations with Matt and his team at Harger to figure out the best way to get him the product on time to be able to fit into his installation schedule. So I think we started ramping up production on our end because it's not, every day that Franklin Electric gets an order for almost 400 of these units. So, before we even bid in on the project, we had, chess pieces put into place to be able to hit that production level in the allotted time that we knew the project was tentatively scheduled to be completed by. So at that point, we worked with Matt on his crew's installation schedule and what his estimates were. And then we started staging units at his laydown yard to be able to be ready to go when springtime hit and the ground thawed out and he had plenty of units on site to start the installations. And then from there, it was just a scheduled repeat delivery of those units. I think approximately 30 or 40 units per month, if I'm not mistaken.
Hmm. Yeah, maybe Kyle, do you have anything more that you could add on that aspect of like how you got, how did your team interface with that, I guess, of like you have this huge order of all these things. What did you, from your side, what did you have to do in that regard?
Sure. I mean, just to put it lightly, I mean, this project has definitely, especially this past year, really stressed not only our plant but our supply chain, right? So there was a lot of moving parts. We had meetings beforehand with our manufacturing and operation teams to make sure they were prepared for this. Our sourcing team to make sure that we were upping our orders to make sure that there was no shortages. And I think kudos to the Franklin team, our manufacturing team, and our sourcing team to make sure that we haven't had any significant downtime on this production line and making sure that we were delivering product in a timely fashion to Matt and the utility.
Yeah, yeah, just keeping up with all of that, especially like you said, during a pandemic with all these like supply chain stuff, shipping being so delayed, it's just like all those pieces really are pre compounding challenges essentially for you. Um,
Right.
but Matt, I want to talk a little bit about the PennVest loan as well. There was this $13 million plus loan from PennVest that was involved with this as well. What type of impact did that play in the project as a whole? And did you feel that from your side of the project at all, or was that more felt from the utility aspect?
So for projects typically of this type that are a design bid build, and they go to the lowest responsible bidder that we were awarded the project, the PennVest funding helps alleviate a lot of the challenges that a small or local authority may have in being able to fund a project of this magnitude. Lemon and Tunkhannock Township are funding both the low pressure sewer system that we're installing, but they're also funding the treatment plant that all this new septic and sewage is going to be piped to. So it's a lot to bite off whenever you're talking about funding and costs. So PennVest loans help minimize the hit that the authorities take and helps them better fund the project. Ultimately, what that goes back to is lower costs for homeowners, lower taxes for local areas, and the PennVest funding helps secure and make sure that the project is funded so that once it's started, the money's there for it to be completed and contractors get paid, the designers get paid, the suppliers get paid, and it's a good safety net to make sure that whenever you have a project that needs done, it funds it, it takes care of it, and that's there and ready. So there's really no reason that things can't happen once that's kind of secured.
Yeah, just like shoulder burden remove, like kind of
Yep.
situation. Yeah, Adam, moving on to you, a little bit more technical on this aspect here. There was a hydraulic analysis that was required for this project, or that you guys did for this project. Could you talk about that hydraulic analysis and what it told you about the topography? Like Jesse said, the topography was a big element of this. Even Adam mentioned that as well. How did that hydraulic analysis inform this topography element, and how did it inform the project as a whole?
Well, I mean, as we talked about, the topography did play a large part in the analysis, just because of the large freshwater source that pretty much just immediately disqualified a traditional gravity sewage system, just because you'd be so concerned about I and the surrounding area, inflow and infiltration, so that the sewage treatment plant that be treating the water would be overrun, as well as the possibility of sewage infiltrating into the lakes. So. And then, as Matt talked about, the septic systems that were in the area that were normally used to alleviate this problem, they were having issues with leakage into the lakes. So that kind of left either basically a step or steg system, or a low pressure sewer system like we have supplied in this case. Step or steg, in this case would be step, is a septic tank effluent pump, which you'd think you'd be able to reuse the septic tanks, but you really wouldn't, because the tanks are already having problems in this case. So in this case, low pressure sewer did seem like the way to go. And looking at the elevation changes and the length of pipe and stuff, the elevation changes were enough to say that at least the backside of the system needed what we call high head grinder pumps, something that can pump around 200 feet of head. Whereas there were some sections that were closer to the sewage treatment plant that actually were running downhill. And as much as you'd like to use gravity at that point, when you've already put in a low pressure sewer system, you can't just make a couple homes gravity. You have to make it all low pressure. And that's where some of the technologies of the power sewer, like the anti-siphon check valve standard, comes in handy, where it makes sure that these systems aren't siphoning. Also, that the fact that the grinder pump can run at the end of its curve at 0 feet of head, if need be, means that the grinder is not susceptible to cavitation at that range, like you would be concerned with other systems. So those are some challenges regarding the topography that I felt like our system was definitely suited to handle. The fact that we have the high head pumps at the back end of the system, the standard grinder pumps with anti-siphon check valve standard for the front end, as well as just the length of pipe needed. I think the longest run was over 1 mile, and I think total it was somewhere around 7 or 8 miles. But
Yeah.
it was a lot.
Well, yeah, and I mean, with a lot of elevation changes like that, and a more traditional setup, you would use lift stations for that, but that you didn't have to do that with this, because of this low pressure sewer system and these pumps and whatnot. Could you talk about, like, elaborate on that a little bit more, and kind of like how this is an alternative in that regard?
Right. So I guess one of the biggest advantages of low pressure sewer, I guess a few, but one of them is that you essentially have a lift station in every house. Each grinder pump acts as its own lift station. So it doesn't matter if your house is downhill from the sewage treatment plant, or downhill from a large elevation change. Your pump acts as its own lift station and get it out. Another big thing that helped with this project is I'll toot Harger Utilities horn a little bit for them, but they were able to do directional boring for the pipe placement, so that the community wasn't upended by a lot of construction in the area. If you've visited some of these lakeside communities, the roads can be very narrow, especially in Pennsylvania. It's very heavily wooded. There's a lot of hills everywhere, and any little bit of construction can disrupt the community. But low pressure sewer pipe is smaller in diameter. Mains can get as small as 2 inches. And I think the largest we've been on this one was 8 inches, because the grinder pumps grind everything into a slurry. And then Harger Utility is able to bore under the road without having to rip up the road to put in the pipe. So it definitely helped to keep the community up and running, and they didn't notice the construction nearly as much as if they'd had to put in a traditional gravity sewer system.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thank you all for talking about this project and stuff like that. I wanted to also give an opportunity for some shout outs here, because as many people as there are in this call, it's nowhere close to the number of people that worked on this project. So I wanted to start with you, Adam. Is there anyone that you'd like to shout out for this project that did an exemplary job that isn't on the call today?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I would definitely just give a shout out to the entire Franklin Electric team. It takes an army to manage a project like this, from start to finish, to actually getting the award to producing the product and shooting it out. And then obviously to Larson Design Group, to Semperfi, to the team at Harger Utility. This has been a seamless project. We've had open lines of communication with Harger, Matt, and his team. They've been wonderful to work with. So it's been a pleasure, and it's really nice to be a part of a project that can help the community like this for sure.
Yeah. Matt, how about you? Any shout outs from your side?
Uh, First of all, I'd like to shout out my local construction team that's on the ground dealing with the homeowners every day. Rob Ream is our general superintendent. That he's not on the call today, and he manages all the manpower and equipment and coordinates a lot of the materials for the project. And Gavin Kluke is our local on-site superintendent that is managing this project for the crews, scheduling the homeowners and deliveries and things like that. And I would shout out Franklin Electric. They did an excellent job with providing the product that they needed to. We're completed with our deliveries of grinder pumps at this point. So something that could have been a very big challenge on this project of maintaining material surplus to keep the crews working. It wasn't even a variable this time. So shout out to Adam and all his guys for making sure that we got what we needed when we needed it.
Yeah. Kyle, that's kind of a shout out to you as well and your team. Anyone that you wanna shout out for today?
Yeah, I mean, I'll circle back again and just, thank everybody behind the scenes on all sides, but on the Franklin side, our manufacturing plants in Oklahoma and up in Wisconsin and Madison, they did a great job on making sure product was available for this project. So big shout out to them.
Yeah. Andy, how about you?
Well, I guess shout out to Jessie for a seamless transfer of the project because I wasn't the one who started it, but I was the one who finished it on the design side. I guess also shout out to Larson Design Group for just making sure that the analysis was very thoroughly looked over. There were a couple little small revisions that we made based on their recommendations that I'd like to thank them for. And I guess shout out to Harger Utility for helping turn this this dream into a reality.
All right. Jesse, you just got shouted out by by Andy over here. You got anyone that you wanna give a good shout to?
I mean, it's a large team that worked really hard to put all this together. Like they said, from Larson to Harder, Semperfi, to be able to put these units together in the middle of a pandemic. Our supply teams, our manufacturing facilities. I mean, there was a lot of planning that went in, a lot of hard work, and so it's definitely something to be proud of.
Yeah. Well, thank you all. I really appreciate it. And for everyone who's watching, check back next week. We'll have another video interview on Thursday. We're running them from October 28th all the way through the end of the year. So make sure that you check back every week to see a new Top Project video interview. And definitely check out in December. We're going to be publishing every one of these as an article in that print issue. So check it out there too. And till next week. And congratulations to all of you guys.